Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Today, we are going to wrap up our look at the two Asian powers for now. Trust me, we will come back. But with the time given that we have, we only are able to do somewhat of a cursory overview of what was going on in both Japan and China. So, much like when we looked at Japan, with China, we're going to have two questions as well to look at. So, number one, why didn't all right? See, some of you guys say hate. I hate recording videos of myself because then I look like an idiot. Well, there you go. Now I look like an idiot too because I'm not about to restart the recording and do it all again. So there you go. Question one, why didn't China become an exploration superpower? And number two, why did China eventually try to isolate itself from industrialization and global trade? So let's jump in. We're going to try and keep this one a little bit shorter. So we're going to start with the Ming Dynasty. The Ming Dynasty is going to rule China from 1368 to 1644, so roughly 250 years. And it is going to collect tributes from a lot of Asian countries. And what tributes are is they're essentially gifts to say, hey, we will give you this. You protect us slash don't kill us. So I expect tributes from my students of candy in exchange for giving you good grades. Kind of the same thing. China expects gifts and tributes from other countries in exchange for not destroying them and protecting them from the outside world. So Hung Wu, who you read about yesterday, he was the peasant son who had this large army. If you remember, that's where the name Hung Wu comes from, that will force the Mongols out of China and take it back for the Chinese. Hung Wu's son, Young Lu, will become the next emperor, and he is going to move the royal court to Beijing, a city that you have probably heard of before, and built the Forbidden City. And I'm going to show you an image of the Forbidden City in just a moment, but it is a palace on the largest scale imaginable. There are a number of videos, which if we had more time, I would show you some of these videos, but you can look them up on your own where people are touring the Forbidden City. And you will see that as much as it is a palace, it really is a city. So in 1405, Young Lu is going to launch the first voyages of exploration, and we will talk about those in just a moment. So here we have Hung Wu down to Young Lu. So this is an example of what we are talking about with the Forbidden City, where it is absolutely massive. And this is just one portion of it. And the key here is this idea of power projection. They don't need all of this space to effectively rule or effectively organize their government. It's not necessary. But having this large seat of power shows power. Think about it. People who have extremely large houses, they probably don't need all that space. Maybe they do. But a lot of times you look at them and think, wow, they got it going on. They're pretty wealthy. Same idea here. If the center of government is big and strong and massive and intimidating, then you think of it as something powerful. And you think of China as something powerful. So this is going to be a theme that is going to continue. So the voyages of Zhang He. Zhang He is a Chinese admiral who's going to go on a series of 7 long voyages. And these 7 voyages are designed to show China's superiority. So as he is going on these voyages, as he is sailing around, he is giving gifts away to the people around him, showing off all of that China has to offer. And in the 1500s, the Chinese government will start to control all contact with outsiders. What does that sound like from Japan? Japan did the same thing. But because they have shown off their great goods, they have given people a taste, which gets them hooked and they want more. There is a high demand for Chinese goods, porcelain, silk, tea, etc. Think about what happened with the spices. Once Europeans got a taste, they wanted more. The same thing is happening with the nations around China. They had gotten a taste of the gifts that Zheng He was sending out and wanted more, which helps China's economy boom. This, again, is all about power projection. So, down here is the Santa Maria. This is one of Columbus's ships. Up here is one of Zheng He's ships, and many ships went along on these voyages. So you can see it is all about showing off, all about showing that we are powerful, we're the best nation in the world. We basically run the show, and you all should bow down to us. That's sort of a pun. You'll see why in a second. This is the porcelain that we're talking about. And now a lot of us would look at this and think that it is out of style and ugly and something that your grandmother would have maybe, and she would maybe pass it down to you, and you'd have to be like, oh, thanks, I love it. And then you're like, God, I hate this thing. And it's not great. But from the perspective of this time period, this in and of itself was power projection. The ability to create such intricate art in such high quality designs. This showed the power of the Chinese Empire. So even though to us they just look like stupid vases or vases, if you're fancy, this shows power. So the Manchus are going to kind of screw up everything that is going on here in the Ming Dynasty. So the Manchus are people from Manchuria, which is in northern China, and they are going to come down into mainland China, which the dark red was mainland China, and they are going to take control in 1644 and establish a new dynasty called the Qing Dynasty. This isn't Qing Dynasty. In Chinese, the Q is the CH, so it's the Qing Dynasty. And honestly, it did not get off on the right foot. So when we looked at Japan, we saw that when the Europeans came, originally it was great, and then things went sour. The Chinese, it started sour with the Qing Dynasty because they hated being ruled by a non-Chinese dynasty. These people had come in and taken over, and it wasn't really up to them who was in control anymore. And now they had these non-Chinese people ruling them. Essentially, they were outsiders. Imagine if all of a sudden the Canadians came and took over the United States. They came in on their horseback, their mounted police, and with their maple syrup and hockey sticks, and took over. And all of a sudden we were ruled by Canadians. People wouldn't be too happy. So there were a lot, as you can imagine, rebellions. But the opposite of what happened in China occurred here, what happened in Japan. As I mentioned, in Japan, things started great and then went sour. In China, it's going to go the other way, where things started sour and then turned out great because the Manchus actually do their job. Believe it or not, you can become successful by doing what you're supposed to do. People will respect you if you do your job. So Kangxi is one of the rulers from 1661 for about 60 years to 1722. He helps reform the government, promote the arts. Then you get Qianlong, emperor for another 60 years. He helps expand that Chinese empire. We'll see a map in just a second. Oh, right here. The dashed lines, as you see there, the slightly darker area, is the Ming Dynasty at its largest. The light gray is the Qing Dynasty. So it helps over double in size, the size of China. So the Qing Dynasty really gets to work on expanding this empire. But, oops, excuse me, here we go. We've been talking about this. The Chinese believed themselves to be superior to other peoples. That's why they didn't really need to go sailing. They didn't really need to explore because in their mind, there was nothing out there better than them. So if there was nothing out there to go after, why go after anything? China firmly believed that they were the top empire, the top civilization in the world. Because of this, they held all the cards when it came to trading. So if other nations wanted to come in and trade with China, they had to follow very specific rules in order to be able to trade with the Chinese. One of them is you must kowtow. And let me get through here because there's an image. Kowtow is literally bow down until your head touches the floor at the feet of the emperor. So I have decided now to make a change in my class. Anytime you want to ask me a question, you must kowtow. I realized the Chinese, they knew what was going on. So I expect that I'll try and keep an area of the floor clean for you, but you might get your forehead dirty, but it's for the good of the cause. The Dutch, they accept these rules. They're like, you know what, China, you got great stuff. We're just happy to be here. We're just happy to trade with you. If you want us to kowtow, whatever, we'll do it. If it means that we can get your high quality stuff, we'll do it. It's not really that big of a deal. The British are like, no, this isn't going to happen. We are too proud of a people for that. So we aren't going to kowtow. We don't really accept those rules. And China's like, all right, that's fine. We don't need you anyway. So you're gone. You don't need to trade with us. And this leads to a fight between Qianlong, the emperor of China, and Macartney from England. And there is a video posted on the assignment sheet right underneath this that I want you to watch that will go through what happens here, where McCartney's going to try sending some letters, he's going to try talking to the people, and we are going to see how this goes. So that concludes this brief ed puzzle. Take a look at the YouTube video that I have posted for you, and then we will move on.